Welcome back to our channel History Coins HD. As you that old is gold, but these rare Lincoln penny coins that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them. You're lucky if you have one of these, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Top 1 today, we're diving into the fascinating story of a coin you might have in your pocket right now, a simple 1-cent piece, but with a twist. We're talking about the 1980 Lincoln penny from the United States. A coin that looks just like any other, until you take a much closer look. So what makes this tiny copper coin so special? Why are collectors on the hunt for it? And could you be holding onto one without even knowing its true value? Stick around, because this story goes deeper than you think, and at the end of this video, we'll reveal just how much this little piece of metal could be worth today. And now, when most people see a 1980 penny, they see just that, 1 cent tossed in a jar, dropped in a car console, or forgotten at the bottom of a drawer. It's one of the most common coins in circulation. Millions were minted. So how could it possibly be rare, or even valuable? To understand the mystery of the 1980 Lincoln penny, let's first step back for a moment. The Lincoln penny has been an iconic part of American coinage since 1909, when it was first introduced to honor President Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday. Over the decades, the design has seen subtle changes, but it's remained a staple of everyday life in the U.S. From the wheat reverse to the Lincoln Memorial and now the shield, it's been in every pocket, purse, and piggy bank for generations, but something happened in 1980. A few pennies slipped through the cracks with unique features that weren't supposed to be there, making them incredibly rare and extremely valuable. We're talking about errors, misstrikes, and minting anomalies. And yes, there are even a few that look completely normal, but aren't. Let's start with the basics. Most 1980 Lincoln pennies were minted with a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc, just before the U.S. Mint made the switch to copper-plated zinc in 1982. This means that your 1980 penny is heavier than newer ones, about 3.11 grams compared to the 2.5 grams of modern cents. That alone isn't special. But here's where it gets interesting. Some of these 1980 pennies have what experts call a double die error. That's when the coin was struck more than once during minting, slightly off alignment, causing the letters and numbers, especially in the word liberty or the date, to appear doubled. These errors are very subtle and can be missed by the average eye. But to a trained collector, that doubling can be the difference between a penny and a prize. Another rare feature that makes certain 1980 pennies valuable is the presence of off-center strikes. Imagine a coin where the design is pushed to one side, leaving a blank crescent shape on the other. That's a minting mistake, and collectors love those. The more dramatic the error, and the better the condition, the higher the value. And then there's the holy grail of coin collecting, uncirculated condition. A 1980 penny that's never been used in everyday transactions, with its original luster, sharp details, and no scratches or blemishes? That's the dream. Combine that with a rare error like a double die or off-center strike, and suddenly, you've got something truly special on your hands. But here's the part that really gets people excited: the market value. Because yes, these rare variations of the 1980 Lincoln penny are highly sought after. Coin shows, auctions, and online marketplaces are full of collectors hunting for that perfect piece. And while many 1980 pennies are worth only face value, the rare ones, the ones with errors, in pristine condition, can sell for more than most people would ever expect. In fact, one such 1980 Lincoln penny, due to its rarity, flawless condition, and unique error, has been valued at an unbelievable $55,000. That's right, 1 cent, transformed into a small fortune. So before you toss that penny aside or spend it without a second thought, take a closer look. Who knows? You might just be holding onto a hidden treasure. If you enjoyed this video and want to uncover more stories about rare and valuable coins, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We've got more coin tales coming your way, and you won't want to miss what's next. Top 2, we're unlocking the mystery behind one of the most surprising coins in U.S. history, the 1974 Lincoln penny. Now, before you go rushing to check your loose change, let's take a moment to understand what makes this little copper coin so intriguing. It might look like just another ordinary penny, but behind that familiar face of Abraham Lincoln lies a fascinating story of experimentation, rarity, and one very valuable mistake. Let's rewind to the early 1970s. Back then, the United States Mint was facing a bit of a problem. Copper prices were on the rise, and making pennies out of nearly pure copper was becoming expensive, too expensive. So, in 1974, the US Mint started looking for cheaper alternatives. They began experimenting with different materials, hoping to find a new composition that would reduce costs without causing too much change in appearance or weight. Most people have heard of the 1974 aluminum penny. That's the most famous experimental coin from that year. Only a few were made, and they're considered some of the rarest coins in the world. But while everyone was focused on aluminum, something else happened at the Denver Mint. Something unexpected. And that's where the 1974 D. Lincoln penny enters the spotlight. Unlike the experimental aluminum coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint wasn't supposed to produce any aluminum pennies. But somehow, rumors have persisted for years that a very small number of aluminum cents were accidentally struck at the Denver facility, marked with a small d under the date. And that's just one part of the story. The real magic of the 1974 D penny lies in its errors and varieties. Over the years, collectors have discovered coins from this year with unusual features, misaligned dies, double strikes, and most interestingly, extremely well-preserved examples in pristine, uncirculated condition. These rare variations aren't just collector's items, they're pieces of minting history. Now, here's the thing. You may come across a 1974 D penny and not even realize it's special. It takes a trained eye, and sometimes a microscope, to spot the tiny differences that separate a regular coin from a high-value one. We're talking about things like doubled dies, where letters or numbers appear to have a shadow or a second impression. Or maybe the coin has an unusually sharp strike, making the details on Lincoln's face and the Lincoln Memorial stand out more crisply than normal. These are the signs that serious collectors pay attention to, and they pay big money for them. Another major factor in a coin's value is its condition. A coin that looks brand new, with no scratches, no wear, and still has that original mint shine, is considered to be in uncirculated or even mint state condition. Combine that with a rare mint error or an unusual variant, and suddenly you're looking at a coin that could turn heads at an auction. And remember, the Denver Mint was one of the busiest in the country during the 1970s. So while millions of 1974 D pennies were struck, only a tiny handful survived with the rare characteristics collectors seek. Most were used in everyday transactions, bought candy, rode in pockets, and lived their lives like any other penny. But a lucky few made it out untouched, flawless, and quietly increasing in value year after year. So, what does all this mean for you? It means that penny in your change jar, the one you've been ignoring for decades, could be far more valuable than you ever imagined. Because among all the common coins, a rare 1974 D penny with the right traits, perfect condition, unique mint error, or unusual composition has been known to sell for an eye-popping $68,000. That's right, $68,000 for a coin that was once worth just 1 cent. Incredible, isn't it? If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of America's most surprising pennies, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and tap that notification bell, so you don't miss out on future coin stories that could turn your spare change into serious cash. Top 3. We're diving deep into the fascinating world of the 1977 Lincoln penny, a coin most people ignore, but a few lucky collectors have learned is anything but ordinary. So grab your coin jar, empty out those drawers, and stick with me, because by the end of this video, you might just be racing to find one for yourself. Let's start with what you probably already know. The Lincoln penny has been a part of American life for over a century. First minted in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it's become one of the most iconic and widely circulated coins in U.S. history. And in 1977, the Lincoln penny looked pretty much like it had for years: Abraham Lincoln on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back, and a composition mostly made of copper. So what's the big deal about the 1977 penny? On the surface, nothing. But it's what lies beneath the surface, and in some rare cases, what went wrong during the minting process, that makes this coin incredibly valuable. In 1977, the U.S. Mint produced hundreds of millions of these pennies across several locations. Most of them? Totally ordinary. Worth exactly 1 cent. But as with many coins, a tiny number slipped through with special characteristics that turned them into hidden gems. Let's talk about errors. Now, when most people hear error, they think of something broken or ruined. But in the coin world, errors are golden. Literally. Errors can skyrocket a coin's value because they are incredibly rare. A few examples include double dies, off-center strikes, and clipped planchets. All of these are minting mistakes that occurred in the factory, giving the coin a unique and unrepeatable design. In 1977, there were reports of Lincoln pennies with noticeable doubling on the words Liberty or In God We Trust, as well as on the date itself. These doubled die errors were not intentional, but they became highly sought after because of how unusual they look under magnification. The letters appear as though they've been stamped twice, giving the coin a shadowy, almost ghost-like appearance, and then there are the off-center strikes. Imagine a coin where part of the design is pushed to one side, or even partially cut off. These errors happen when the coin blank isn't lined up properly during the stamping process. Instead of ruining the coin's value, these imperfections actually make it more desirable, especially if the date and other major design elements are still visible. Another feature that boosts a coin's worth is its condition. Collectors are always looking for coins in what's known as mint state condition, coins that have never been used in circulation, show no signs of wear, and still have that original luster from the day they were struck. Finding a 1977 penny in mint state is rare, but finding one with an error in mint state? That's like hitting the jackpot. The wild thing is, these coins are still out there. Tucked away in old collections, forgotten inside coin albums, or even mixed in with everyday change. And most people don't even realize it. That's why coin hunting has become such a popular hobby, because anyone, anywhere, at any time, could stumble across a penny that's worth a whole lot more than face value. Now, let's add one more layer to the story: professional grading. When collectors find what they believe is a rare coin, they often send it to be graded by experts. These professionals evaluate the coin's condition, authenticity, and any unique features it might have. The better the grade, the higher the value. A 1977 Lincoln penny that's been authenticated has a rare mint error and scores high on the grading scale? That's the kind of coin that turns heads in the collecting world. So, what's the payoff? After all this talk about errors, condition, and rarity, you're probably wondering just how much a 1977 Lincoln penny could actually be worth. Well, here's the number that might blow your mind. One exceptionally rare 1977 penny, featuring a dramatic mint error and preserved in flawless condition, has been valued at an astonishing $60,000. Yes, you heard that right. A single 1-cent coin. $60,000. It's the kind of discovery that turns a casual coin collector into a serious treasure hunter. So the next time you find yourself holding a penny, don't just brush it off. Look a little closer. You never know what kind of history, mystery, or value might be hiding in the smallest of places. If you loved this video and want to hear more stories about rare coins that could change your life, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss a chance to learn, discover, and maybe even strike it rich. Top 4. We're taking a close look at one such coin, the 1981 Lincoln penny. Now, before you brush this off as just another old penny, hold on. Because while millions of 1981 Lincoln pennies were struck and circulated across the country, only a tiny fraction have a hidden story. A story that turns a regular 1-cent coin into an incredibly rare and highly valuable piece of American numismatic history. Let's go back for a moment and set the scene. The early 1980s were a transitional time for U.S. coinage. The country had already moved away from silver in coins like the dime and quarter in the 1960s, and copper was starting to follow a similar path. You see, pennies had always been mostly made of copper. But rising metal prices meant that producing them was becoming less and less cost-effective. By 1982, the U.S. Mint officially changed the composition of the penny from 95% copper to a much cheaper copper-plated zinc core. But in 1981, the year before that change, the traditional copper penny was still being minted. And that's where things start to get interesting. Most 1981 pennies are, admittedly, quite common. They were made in the billions, with mint marks from Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. But like with all mass production, not every coin came out exactly the same. Some 1981 pennies carry minting errors, small anomalies that make them far more valuable to collectors. One of the most sought-after types is the double die variety. This happens when the coin is struck more than once with a misaligned die, causing a ghost-like effect, usually seen in the inscriptions, the date, or even Lincoln's profile. Imagine looking at the words Liberty or In God We Trust and seeing a second, slightly shifted impression. These are hard to spot with the naked eye but absolutely thrilling when found under magnification. Then there are off-center strikes, where the design is stamped off the intended position, creating a partial blank area on the coin. Or broad strikes, where the collar that holds the coin blank in place during minting malfunctions, allowing the metal to spread slightly beyond its normal boundaries. Both of these errors are rare and can increase a coin's value exponentially, especially if the date and key design elements are still visible, but that's not all. Some 1981 pennies, despite being struck in the millions, are found in such perfect, untouched condition that they're graded as mint state or proof-like by professional grading services. A regular 1981 penny in your pocket might be worth a cent, but one in flawless, pristine condition, untouched by circulation, is in a league of its own. Now let's talk about one of the most interesting behind-the-scenes facts from the year 1981, the two different font styles on the word America. In some proof coins and early runs from certain mints, you'll find different spacing or thickness in the letters. While subtle, these variations add another layer of collectability, especially when combined with other errors or a perfect grade. All of this, the historical transition, the minting errors, the condition, and the rarity, combines to make the 1981 penny a surprising favorite among collectors. And here's the best part, most people don't even know it. These coins are still out there, sitting in coin jars, tucked away in forgotten collections, or mixed in with everyday change. And if you're lucky enough to spot the right one, you could be looking at something truly special. And now, if you're thinking about going treasure hunting, here's a tip: check both sides carefully. Use a magnifying glass if you can. Look for doubling in the lettering, odd spacing, shifts in the strike, and signs of perfect condition like no wear on Lincoln's cheek or the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. If you find a coin that looks different, don't spend it. Get it checked out by a professional coin grading service. Because what looks like a regular penny to most might be a key to a hidden fortune. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the value reveal. A rare, error-filled, perfectly preserved 1981 Lincoln penny has been appraised and sold for a jaw-dropping $58,000. Yes, $58,000 for a penny. So the next time you get change back, don't ignore those little copper coins. The tiniest treasures often hide in the most unexpected places. If this story blew your mind or sparked your curiosity about coin collecting, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We're always uncovering rare coin stories, and who knows, one of them might lead you to your next great find. Thanks for watching, and happy hunting!